I need to walk you through what is shaping up to be one of the most dramatic weather pattern splits we have seen in years across the United States. And what I'm seeing in the data right now is extraordinary. We are looking at a situation where the country is going to be divided into two completely different worlds in terms of weather over the next 7 to 10 days. The western United States is going to experience well above normal temperatures with a massive ridge of high pressure dominating the region, while the eastern half of the country is going to be slammed by not one, but two separate Arctic blasts that are going to bring life-threatening cold and significant snow. This isn't just cold weather. This is the kind of cold where we're talking about temperatures in some areas that could challenge records, where wind chills could drop to 40 or 50 below zero, and where we could see situations develop that are genuinely dangerous for anyone who is not prepared. I'm going to break down exactly what's happening when these Arctic blasts are going to arrive, who is going to see snow, and what kind of impacts we're looking at over the coming days. Let me start by explaining the overall pattern that's developing, because understanding the big picture is important for understanding why this is happening. We have what meteorologists call an extremely amplified pattern setting up across North America. When I say amplified, I mean that the jet stream is taking on a very exaggerated wavy configuration with deep troughs and strong ridges. On the western side of the continent, we have a massive ridge of high pressure building over the Rockies and extending westward to the Pacific coast. This ridge is going to bring temperatures that are 15 to 25 degrees above normal across much of the West. We're talking about cities like Los Angeles, Phoenix, Denver, and Salt Lake City seeing temperatures that feel more like early spring than the middle of winter. But on the eastern side of the country, we have the exact opposite situation developing. We're going to see a deep trough dig into the eastern United States, and this trough is going to act as a pipeline for Arctic air to flow south out of Canada. And when I say Arctic air, I'm not talking about your typical winter cold. I'm talking about an air mass that originates in the Arctic Circle and is going to maintain its intensity all the way down into the southern United States. This is the kind of setup that produces historic cold events, and that's exactly what we're looking at. Now, this isn't going to happen all at once. We're going to see this unfold in two distinct waves. The first Arctic blast is going to arrive on Wednesday, and while this first wave is going to be significant, it's actually going to be the warm-up act for what comes later in the week. Let me walk you through the timeline starting with Wednesday. As we move into Wednesday, February 5th, we're going to see temperatures begin to plummet across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. This is going to happen fast. Some areas could see temperature drops of 20 to 30 degrees in just a matter of hours as the Arctic front pushes through. Cities like Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo are going to see temperatures drop from the 30s on Tuesday down into the teens and single digits by Wednesday afternoon. What makes this first blast notable is that it's going to come with snow. We're looking at the potential for a quick-moving Alberta Clipper system to track across the Great Lakes on Wednesday into Thursday. Now, Alberta Clippers typically don't produce huge snowfall amounts, but they can still create significant problems. We're looking at 2 to 4 inches of snow across much of the Great Lakes region, with some isolated areas potentially seeing 6 inches if you get caught under a heavier band. But the bigger concern with this system is going to be the combination of snow and strong winds. We could see snow squalls develop, which are intense bursts of heavy snow that can reduce visibility to near zero in just minutes. If you're driving across Michigan, Ohio, or Indiana on Wednesday afternoon or evening, you need to be prepared for rapidly changing conditions. Now, as significant as this first Arctic blast is going to be, it's nothing compared to what's coming Friday and Saturday. The second Arctic blast is going to be much more intense, much more widespread, and much longer lasting. This is the one that has the potential to break records and create genuinely dangerous conditions. Let me be very clear about what we're looking at. By Friday, February 7th, a second and much colder air mass is going to begin pushing into the northern plains and the upper Midwest. This air mass is going to be extraordinarily cold. We're talking about high temperatures on Friday, struggling to get above zero in places like Minneapolis, Fargo, and Duluth. Overnight lows Friday night into Saturday morning could drop to 20 or even 30 below zero in some areas. And that's the actual air temperature, not the wind chill. As we move into Saturday, February 8th, this brutally cold air is going to spread eastward and southward. The entire eastern third of the United States is going to be affected. Cities like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and even Atlanta are going to see temperatures that are 30 to 40 degrees below normal for this time of year. In some areas across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast, we could see temperature drops of 40 to 50 degrees within a 24-hour period. That kind of rapid temperature change creates all sorts of problems, from stress on infrastructure to increased risk of cold-related illness. The wind chills are going to be the most dangerous aspect of this Arctic blast. Across the Great Lakes and the Northeast, we're looking at wind chills that could drop to 30, 40, or even 50 below zero. At those levels, frostbite can occur on exposed skin in just minutes. This isn't a situation where you can step outside for a few minutes without proper protection. This is the kind of cold where you need to be fully covered, where you need to limit your time outside, and where you need to take the threat seriously. Now let me talk about snow, because we're going to see multiple snow events over the next several days. The first snow event is going to come with that Alberta Clipper system I mentioned on Wednesday into Thursday. This is going to bring light to moderate snow across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and parts of the Northeast. But the more significant snow event is going to come on Friday. As that second Arctic blast pushes in, we're going to see another Clipper system develop, and this one has the potential to bring heavier snow to a large area. Specifically, I'm watching Friday into Friday night for potentially significant snow across Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and western Pennsylvania. Current model guidance suggests we could see 3 to 6 inches of snow across this region, with some isolated areas potentially picking up 8 to 10 inches if the heaviest bands set up in the right location. The snow is going to be accompanied by strong winds, and this is where things could get really dangerous. We could be looking at near blizzard or even full blizzard conditions across portions of the Great Lakes and the Northeast. For something to be classified as a blizzard, you need sustained winds of at least 35 miles per hour, combined with falling or blowing snow that reduces visibility to less than a quarter mile for at least 3 hours. With the strong winds that are going to be in place and the snow that's going to be falling, we could very easily meet those criteria across portions of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. Even in areas where we don't quite meet the technical definition of a blizzard, we're still going to see very difficult travel conditions with blowing and drifting snow. As we look ahead into the weekend, the pattern is going to remain very cold across the eastern United States, but we're going to see a brief break in the active weather. Saturday and Sunday are going to be quiet in terms of precipitation, but they're going to be brutally cold. This is when we're going to see those record-challenging temperatures I mentioned earlier. Some areas in the Northeast could wake up Sunday morning to the coldest temperatures they've seen in years. And the cold is going to be prolonged. We're not talking about one cold night followed by a warm-up. We're talking about multiple days where temperatures remain well below normal. One of the most remarkable aspects of this pattern is how extreme the contrast is going to be between different parts of the country. While the East is dealing with life-threatening cold, the West is going to be experiencing spring-like conditions. And this creates some truly unusual situations. We could very easily see a scenario where cities in Florida are colder than cities in Alaska. That's not a typo. The way this pattern is set up, with the ridge so strong in the west and the trough so deep in the east, we could have Jacksonville, Florida recording lower temperatures than Anchorage, Alaska. That's how upside down this pattern is. Looking beyond the weekend, the uncertainty increases, but there are some signals that we need to pay attention to. First, there's the potential for additional snow across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast around the middle of next week. We're monitoring the possibility of a storm system developing along the boundary between the cold air in the east and milder air trying to push in from the south. If this system develops, it could bring snow to areas like North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. It's too early to provide specific details, but it's something we're watching. Second, there are signals in the long-range models that suggest the polar vortex could become disrupted later in February. If this happens, it could lead to even more persistent cold across the eastern United States and potentially set the stage for additional major winter storms. This is something we're going to be monitoring closely over the coming weeks. The impacts from this pattern are going to be widespread and significant. We're already seeing school districts across the Midwest and Northeast announce closures for Thursday and Friday due to the anticipated cold. Thousands of schools could be closed, affecting millions of students. Beyond schools, we're going to see impacts on transportation, with flight delays and cancellations likely at major airports. Road conditions are going to be hazardous, not just from the snow, but from the extreme cold, which can cause existing snow and ice to become even more treacherous. Power grids are going to be under stress from the increased heating demand. While widespread outages aren't expected, localized issues could occur, particularly in areas that also see heavy snow. If you lose power in this kind of cold, it becomes a life-threatening situation very quickly. Indoor temperatures can drop to dangerous levels in just a few hours when it's this cold outside. For anyone in the affected areas, preparation is critical. Make sure your vehicles are winterized and that you have emergency supplies in case you get stranded. Keep extra food, water, and medications on hand in case you can't get out for a few days. Check on elderly neighbors who may be more vulnerable to the cold. And if you have pets, make sure they have a warm place to stay. This isn't weather that animals can tolerate outside for extended periods. The bottom line is that we're entering a period of extreme and potentially dangerous winter weather across the eastern United States. This is not a typical cold snap. This is a major Arctic outbreak that's going to bring some of the coldest temperatures many areas have seen in years. The pattern is going to remain hostile for winter weather through at least the middle of February, and there are signals that it could persist even longer. Winter is far from over, and in fact, we may be entering the most severe phase of the winter season. Stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll continue to keep you updated as this situation evolves.